Well, hello there. Glad to see you. Glad you can make it. I have the book here. I know we need to continue with the story. I think we left off in a precarious position. Before we go, though, I do need to get something to drink. It's been a long day, especially out in the fields today. Vincent!
Yeah? Hang
Vincent,
on,
are you around?
Oh, boy, so much to do. The crops, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. There's only one of me, and... yeah, boss, what's up?
Vincent, thank you. Could you do me a favor? Could you get me some mead, please? It's a big tanker this time. Thank you. Appreciate it. And here we are, about to start the story. Oh, yes. Where we left off. Baldwin had just slipped, and he's falling, and I believe he's knocked himself out.
Baldwin.
Pain pierces the darkness, bringing Baldwin closer to the voices. As he hears his name, other sounds penetrate the blackness. Slowly opening his eyes, there is Tana and Elrin kneeling over him. Trying to sit up, with Elrin's help, a wave of dizziness washes over him.
The back of my head hurts. You are a lucky man. With all the blood around you, we'd feel the worst.
Looking around, slowly, trying to let the spinning fulfill its course, Baldwin takes in all the death lying about his kitchen. There's at least a dozen or more dark elves, laying or crumbled, but no Juragurmos.
What happened after I fell? Talon was the first to see your fall, and came to check, and no sooner did he see you breathing, the creatures outside made a sound like some fingernails on slate rock. Then the remaining elves fled back out the door. Rufus waited a bit, and then he started after them. What did he find? He hasn't returned yet. I need to stand. My head is spinning still, and I need to make it go away.
With Tana and Elrin on either side, Baldwin pulls himself up to his feet. Guiding him out of the blood into a corner with just a few spots, Baldwin stands, and then considers himself lucky. Remembering what Talon had taught him about the Juragurmo, the scene before him could have been worse, with maybe all of them dead. If those creatures had come in with their followers, well, luckily they stayed out, and just the 5 of them fought. They fought for their lives, to stay alive.
Why didn't those creatures come in after us?
Aye, good question. I'm trying to understand that as well. Their actions are not typical of their kind. They should have followed after using their eerie screams to scare us.
And why did they call off their followers? I would think perhaps they do not know their prey as well as they should have.
Perhaps, but methinks 'twas another reason. Again, just one Juragurmo is challenging, but 3. We surely would have died, or at least some of us would have. As uncomfortable it is to hear the truth, Baldwin nonetheless is relieved. None died, let alone suffered any major injury.
How long ago did Rufus take off to trail them?
Tana gestures a half hour ago. No one says anything as each tries to bring the kitchen back to some sense of normalcy. The main table is turned upright, chairs are put back where they belong, and the blood is mopped up as best as possible, with all pitching in using what rags that are available. And then, putting some more logs in the fire, Talon says, "If he does not return in a couple of hours, I will head out. Not that I fear the worst, but I need to know what's going on. Tonight, we were lucky, yet I feel it wasn't luck."
If not luck, then what? Not luck? Well, I would say it otherwise. I do not think I have felt that scared in a very long time.
Upon those words, Tana goes to Elrin and grabs both his hands, and then their foreheads touch. As the 2 of them confront each other in their own thoughts, Baldwin grabs the fireplace poker and stokes the fire. Then, looking to Talon, he asks,
The spinning has gone away, but I still have a nasty headache. Do you have some trick to help with the pain?
"Maybe. It has been a while. I may have some leaves that can help to dull the sharpness." So for the next hour, Baldwin drinks a tea Talon has made, while Elrin and Tana try to pick up the kitchen some more while talking to each other in subtle movements. And Talon just stares into the fire as he smokes a pipe. its smoke slowly entwining with that of the fireplace smoke, circling each other but not touching, as if they're too afraid to embrace. And as the second hour approaches, Talon takes to pacing in the kitchen. No one speaks, but you can feel the tension rising. After a half an hour, Talon's going back and forth. Elrin cannot take it anymore and finally speaks up.
Talon, my friend, perhaps we should decide our next steps.
Talon pauses, then stops, and then leans against the broken door.
It has been long enough. I feel we must head out to see where Rufus is, to ensure his safety and to see if the Juragoma are headed back, north or south.
South? Why would they continue south?
I know not. I only speak of possibilities. For all we know, they could be waiting for you in your barn.
With a look of concern, Baldwin quickly gets up and looks to the barn from one of the kitchen windows. It is past midnight, but luckily there's a half a moon, and its light blankets the surrounding, just enough to see the outlines of the barn door, the wagon, and even the half bales. And as he stares out, he can faintly hear the occasional moo from a cow. Relaxing a bit, he says,
No, they are not in the barn.
Then I'm heading out. We need to know where Rufus is and where the elves are.
I will go with you.
Nay, you stay here, in case they come back or are waiting from afar. Just waiting for us, for our numbers to wane.
Nodding his understanding, Elrin grabs Talon's shoulder and says,
Be safe, my friend. If you do not come back in reasonable time, then we all come looking.
Aye, so be it.
Talon has barely finished belting his sword back on when there is a large thump outside the door. All turn at once to the sound, each instinctively drawing their weapon of choice, as they see an arm draped in mottled brown and green fabric.
Rufus!
Dropping his sword, Talon runs to Rufus, finding him barely alive, with 2 arrows protruding from his back.
Ah, Rufus, you stubborn mule. Help me get him onto the table. I need to get the arrows out. They're usually tipped with poison.
As all 4 of them carry him to the table, he begins to murmur.
Hold on, Rufus. Ye aren't leaving this world yet?
Still mumbling words, Rufus's hand shoots out and grabs Talon's arm, and with strength belying that of his condition, pulls Talon close. Bending over and putting his ear right up to Rufus's lips, Talon says,
What is it, Rufus?
What seems like minutes pass with nobody moving and everybody straining to hear what seems like whispered breaths. And just as Rufus's grip loosens, a shuddering breath escapes him, and Talon stands upright.
Come on, you old fool. Ye ain't dying on my watch.
What did he say?
There'll be time enough for that. First we need to get these arrows out and remedy the poison that is surely in his blood.
For the next half hour, Talon, Tana, and Elrin tend to Rufus, with removing the arrows taking most of the time. And since they did not go in all the way, Elrin has to use his dagger to step in behind the arrowhead and provide a path for Talon to pull it out without catching on a muscle, bone, and organ. Once clear, Tana is using her healing magic to stop the bleeding and close the wounds, with Talon pulling out an amulet from underneath his tunic and laying his glowing hands over Rufus's back closest to his heart. Within a few minutes, what was once a labored breath now sounds normal.
Thank ye, Tana. Thank ye, Elrin.
No need, my friend.
Will he recover? What about the poison?
Aye, he will. Oh, I should say he should. Tana's healing is strong, but it is the poison that creates doubt. With my druid magic, I am hoping, at least I hope, above all, I got it all.
How does the magic get poison out of the body?
Through a process called transformation, where I use the body's own internal workings to turn the poison into something it can handle and then get rid of.
His breathing is getting stronger, and the wounds are less red. They look more pink now.
That is good, but he still isn't out of the woods yet. Another half hour or so, and we will know one way or another.
Talon, what was Rufus saying to you?
They have Marcus, and they have your family.
What?
Chaos of emotions and words erupt as Baldwin badgers Talon for more information, all the while not letting anyone
Baldwin.
interrupt him.
Baldwin!
What?
Baldwin, you need to stop. Give Talon time to explain what Rufus said, so all of us can then plan.
Baldwin is shaking all over. It is a huge effort to not grab a chair, anything, and just throw it. Forcing himself, he sits in one of the chairs and looks to Elrin, Tana, and then finally, Talon.
What did Rufus say?
Taking a swig of his water skin, Talon grabs a stool, the only one left not broken, and positions himself next to Rufus, opposite Baldwin. And taking a deep breath, he begins.
Rufus said he got up with their trail not long from this house. They did not seem to care or want of him, or us, to find them, though, seeing his state, I am inclined to the latter. Anyways, they headed south. At least at first he thought they were heading south, straight to the hamlet, but then the Jurgormo stopped, as if to smell the air, and then changed directions to Marcus's farm. The elves never once checked for followers. Instead, they made haste to the farm. Rufus had to keep a distance between them, so by the time he got to the edge of Marcus's farm, the evil was already there, in the barn, waiting, as Marcus and his boys, along with their family, were being dragged into it. Rufus could already hear the crying and screaming, but he ventured to the back of the barn, and when he got there, peeking in, he could see the Marcus family already dead, their bodies opened up to the Jurgormo, during which your wife and son were tied up to the barn poles. One of the elves were saying something to your wife, but she kept screaming that she didn't understand them. Every time she screamed at them, the elf would slash your son. Spitting at them, screaming with rage, your wife got one arm free from her bitings and scratched the face of the elf. One of the Jurgormos reacted at this and stabbed her in the shoulder, pinning her to the pole. Then the creature slowly turned and looked directly at Rufus and said, "Bring him." As Rufus turned around, a dark elf appeared around the corner and then shot him with an arrow. Rufus cast a spell, but even as he ran, another arrow struck. But he continued to run, back here to the farm as fast as he could, knowing the poison was working faster with every step that he took.
The kitchen is quiet, as the magnitude of what Talon just said seeps in.
Bloody creatures! I will kill every one of them.
And then Baldwin is up. He's heading towards his sword and dagger, leaning against the bedroom door.
Baldwin, wait. This is a trap.
And?
We need to think on this. If we all go without a plan, we will all surely die.
If Talon has taught me anything, especially to Jurgormo, it is that my family is already dead. So yeah, why worry about my life? I'm already dead too.
Do not say that, Baldwin.
Elwin is right. Let's take a moment to breathe and think before we run into their trap.
I'm going with or without you.
I cannot leave Rufus yet. He's still in a bad state. I need to at least a half hour, more, to at least make sure he lives and the poison is gone.
I don't have a half hour.
Your family's already dead. Don't throw your life away.
In a fit of rage, Baldwin rushes to Talon, his fist back to punch him. But Elrin catches him.
Baldwin! Baldwin!
With tears streaming down his face, Baldwin growls his arms out of Elrin's grasp and heads towards the door.
I am going. Follow me or not.
And with 2 large steps, he is outside, off the porch, heading towards the barn. Footsteps can be heard behind him as Elrin and Tana get in front of him and stop him.
Baldwin, my friend, we hear you. We hear your heart's pain, and we will go with you, but you need to hold yourself when we get to Marcus's farm. We need to see what we will be walking into.
As rage dries his eyes, Baldwin looks to both of them.
Fine, but I will have my revenge.
With no more words to say, the 3 head into the barn, saddle their horses, and head out, with Baldwin in the lead. After an hour ride, staying to the main road, the 3 veer off to the left into a grove of trees. Tying the horses, the group grab their weapons and head to Marcus's farm by foot. Within a quarter hour, the back of the barn comes into view. The night is overcast, yet light streams out of the barn as if every lantern has been lit. Faint sounds of laughter carry on the breeze, and Baldwin's knuckles turn white, gripping the hilt of his sword.
We need to see what we're walking into. There is at least a handful plus of elves still about. And the 3 Jurgormos. Who knows how we will walk away from this now?
Peering over the wild bushes they hide behind, Baldwin replies,
It matters not. My life is done. I will kill as many as I can before my last breath leaves my body.
Oh, my friend, listen for one moment. You can seek better revenge, yeah? We can set traps for them as they go back to their hellish hole. And when they get to the Forbidden Forest, We can call on our brethren to help. None will survive, believe me. So don't you want to see this through? Then we can talk afterwards of your life endings, okay?
Baldwin drops to his knees, his fists slowly pounding the ground. Tears start to swell, as well as his rage. And then guilt sets in. He should have protected them. He failed them. He failed his family.
No, I will see this on my terms.
Standing up, Baldwin looks to both of them.
But you both can still set traps and kill whatever creatures remain. And do it in my name, and in Sylvia's and Byron's.
Tana gestures, "Why?" And with tears streaming down his face, Baldwin replies,
Because I have no one left to love.
and with that, Baldwin claps Elrin on the shoulder, giving him a nod, and then lowers his head to kiss the top of Tana's. Then he is moving, keeping low to the ground, tilting the sword so it doesn't drag in the dirt, and he uses the tall grass to his advantage. In minutes, he is at the back of the barn, and memories of before, with Marcus's family trapped, rush back in. Taking a deep breath, and then another, he crouches low, seeking a crack between the boards to peer in, and what he finds shocks him. Sylvia and Byron. They're alive. Sylvia's holding Byron, who's crying. There is blood on both of them, but he can't tell from where. Then there's a snap. Behind him. Without thought, Baldwin twists and whirls Jacob's knife into the elf behind him. With shock in the elf's eyes, Baldwin finishes the move with a sweeping sword cut, taking his head off. Retrieving his dagger, then the elf's head, he goes to the back door and pushes it open. Tossing the head to roll at the elf's feet standing around his family, he says,
Who is next?
For a brief moment, there is a stunned silence, and then a flurry of movement as everyone reacts. The Juragomo scream. The elves draw their swords. Sylvia screams,
It's a trap!
and Baldwin charges in screaming. Baldwin aims for his family as he runs straight into two elves, one who has just gotten his sword out, and the other two daggers. With more purpose than he can imagine, he uses his sword's length to slice across the legs of the elf holding the daggers, thereby bringing him to his knees, and in the process, the elf drops one of the daggers. Grabbing the fallen dagger, Baldwin whips it into the other elf, just as he swings down at him. Parrying the blow with Jacob's knife, he twists the dagger stuck in the elf's gut and pulls up, ensuring a slow, agonizing death. Not forgetting the other elf, who slashes out with his dagger, Baldwin blocks it with the sword and counters by stabbing straight into his chest. And then, Baldwin is up, looking to run to Sylvia, but 5 elves stand in the way.
Let them go. It is me you want,
Why would we do that?
because more of you will die otherwise. Because if you're going to kill them, then me, then my rage will have no bounds.
Perhaps we want this. This rage. This chaos.
While the creature's talking, one of the other Juragomo goes to Sylvia and Byron.
Don't you touch them!
Kneeling, her back to Baldwin holding Byron, the towering creature grabs her body and spins her to face him. And there lies the horror for Baldwin to see. Byron's intestines are being held in with Sylvia's hands, while she is using his body to hold the baby in. Their clothes are soaked in blood, so much blood. Sylvia looks into Baldwin's eyes and mouths the words, "I love you." The barn and night air are pierced with a scream that escapes Baldwin's lips. Without them, there is nothing. Without them, he is nothing.
I will kill you.
Yelling
I
with
will
the
kill
rage
you
of a
all.
man who has lost everything, his home, his paradise, his love, Baldwin attacks with a fury that has no bounds. Regardless of the 5 elves against a single sword and dagger, limbs are lost, throats are slashed, chests are laid open. And as the last elf falls, Baldwin still standing, bloody from multiple stabs and slashes, he glares at the 3 Juragomo. He slowly approaches, not daring to look at his wife and child, letting the rage propel him forward.
You shall pay, even if it costs me my life.
And just as Baldwin prepares to leap at one of the creatures, he is knocked to the ground from behind. Again, darkness seeps in to overtake him, but not before he sees the most beautiful, dark elven woman kneel and caress his cheek. A cacophony of sound brings Baldwin to consciousness, and as he opens his eyes, he starts to cough, but he can't move. He seems to be tied. Yes, looking about, he's tied to the post, and the barn is on fire, and laying on the ground, side by side, is his family. Sylvia's eyes looking at him, with the life gone from them. Turning his head from side to side, there are no Giorgomo, only the beautiful dark elf who walks up to him.
Why?
Why, what?
Why? Why did they have to die? It was me you wanted.
Do you not have a saying in your tongue, an eye for an eye?
Baldwin just shakes his head.
You are true chaos in human form. You should be proud. And we need to stoke that inner fire some more. And that, we take from you as you have taken from me. And now, you get to hold on to this forever. This moment of how you failed them. Thus, chaos will burn even brighter in your soul.
As the elf approaches Baldwin, smiling, a loving smile, a timber falls, narrowly hitting her, but she doesn't even seem to notice it. Baldwin struggles with his bindings, but it's to no avail. Closer she gets, until eventually she's leaning against him, and despite the smoke and a smell of wood and flesh burning, fragments of vanilla drift into Baldwin's nose.
You are an interesting human. Perhaps there is more.
Then she is holding his face, whereupon she kisses him, a long kiss, as if two lovers would do. And then she is walking away, through the fire, out of the barn, leaving Baldwin alone with his dead family. As the beautiful dark elf walks out of the barn, Elrin and Tana look on from their hiding spot, feeling a fear as ancient as their past. The elf stops, starts to look in direction, when the three Giorgomo approach her in deference. Nodding to them, they start their journey back north, just as the first light of dawn approaches. And no sooner do they leave than Elrin and Tana are running to the flames that are engulfing the barn. Huge pieces of the roof have fallen in, with bellowing heat streaming out. And right when they get to the barn, or as close as they can get, an inhuman scream tears into the dawn, followed by the sound of major timbers giving way, feeding the fire in all its glory. Both Tana and Elrin fall to their knees. Tears are streaming down, and sobs escape Tana's lips. They hold on to each other as the fire consumes Baldwin and his family. All right. Well, unfortunately, that's all I can tell you of the story right now. I know. It feels daunting. How can it possibly happen? But rest assured, I'll continue with the story. Something good has to come out of something, right? The world isn't always that sad, is it? Anyways, we'll continue with the story, but it'll be about a month or so. The unicorn and I have to tend to the fields. We have to get the crops going, so that takes attention. But in a month's time, we'll come back and we'll finish our story. Until then, you be safe.